Good morning, everybody. This is a quick, unscheduled, impromptu live stream, which I felt compelled to do to try and bring some balance and calmness to the excitement of some of my fellow housing market commentators who've got a little bit overexcited about the fact that Nationwide's house price index released today is saying that October house prices rose 0.9%. So, number one, house prices and the average transaction price mean two different things. And in Nationwide's index, which I'll look at quickly in a second, it says house prices went up. I'm going to explain to you why that's incorrect terminology. Whether house prices are going up or down, so before any of you say, oh, Charlie always never likes it when they're saying it's going up, but he loves it when they're going down. Look, this applies to either case, okay? We are also seeing the effects of turbulence in transaction volumes being less, in changes in demographics, and I've got some government data to back up what I'm saying. But in a nutshell, what I'm saying is this. Transaction volumes are down across the board. Nobody disagrees with that. The information is public. The government has just published that September was down 19% on last September, or Q3 was down 90% last quarter, last year. There is nobody who's disputing that transaction volumes are down. First-time buyers are normally the largest in terms of, they make up the most in terms of buyers in house pricing transactions. And when transactions are down like they are now because of affordability reasons, it disproportionately hits the lowest end of the market where the largest volume of transactions happens. So if you have got the low end and the high end of transactions and the average are in the middle in terms of volume of transactions, and you have fewer transactions at the lower price end, just less homes selling at lower prices, and more homes than typical selling at higher prices because of the downsizing, the average calculation moves up, even though the actual prices of the properties are going down. This is a mathematical fact. Now, listen, by the way, guys, I could always be wrong, and I'm not saying listen to me. I'm saying just consider what I'm saying, because what I'm trying to do here is to defend the uninitiated and underinformed people who are thinking about making a life-changingly big decision to move house and believing the mathematically incompetent housing market commentators who are saying, yeah, house prices are going up. Look, the land registry says they're going up, and Nationwide says they're going up. So we've clearly hit the bottom, and house prices are clearly going up again. They are wrong. And only yesterday I had people from several different sections of the moving industry going, everybody knows what's happening. House prices are tanking. Okay, but they won't say it publicly because they get ostracized by their industry colleagues. But everybody knows that at the front line, the values of individual properties are falling. But these indices are calculated using methodologies and weighting and complex mathematical algorithms. So let me show you some data that you can check for yourself to explain what I mean, and then I will be gone to let you get on with your day on the 1st of November. Happy 1st of the month, everybody. Oh my God, the fight against the guff. The fight against the guff continues. Let's start with this. Important thing for everyone to understand, okay? Oh, no, don't do that. So the nationwide house price indices are prepared from information that we believe is collated with care, but we don't actually check. But no representation is made as to their accuracy or completeness. We reserve the right to vary our methodology and to edit or discontinue the indices at any time for regulatory or other reasons. They can do what they like with these numbers, and there is no scrutiny. Okay? Ask yourself whether you think a mortgage lender has a vested interest or not in the market. Now, I am not for one moment suggesting there's any deliberate things happening here. What I am saying is, for the same reason as Alex said yesterday, when the market is in a state of flux, it massively messes up with the mix in these algorithms. But let's get on to the actual information itself. And let me just get that larger on the screen there. So what does their index say? It says house prices increase in October. No, that is a demonstrably false statement. Whether house prices go up or down, whatever they're doing, whether they're increasing or decreasing, it is not house prices increasing. It is the average transaction value increasing, which can happen even if individual house prices are falling. For the reasons I'm going to just explain, I'm going to try and explain again. Okay, so they are saying that the monthly figure, right, has gone up 0.9%, but that is seasonally adjusted, which means it's not the actual number, it's the seasonally adjusted number. That could make it different in either direction. I'm not saying it supports my argument or not, but the point is that the annual change is not seasonally adjusted. Annual prices are still falling. They say prices now are still 3.3% lower for the nationwide sample than they were a year ago. I'd like to draw your attention also to this graph over here on the right-hand side of the page, and the blue line in particular, which shows that they're quoting the RICS survey here. New buyer inquiries are at their lowest since 2008. What do you think that's going to do to house prices? Do you really think house prices are going up, actual house prices, as opposed to the average transaction value, which is what they're referring to? The average transaction value can be going up when house prices are going down. That is my point. And by the way, in case there's any doubt, I strongly believe, and I will show you some evidence to support the idea that house prices are falling, whatever this indices and the other ones say. Okay. Now, here we have the government's website. Sorry, click the wrong button here. To show you, in case anyone is in any doubt about transaction volumes. So this is data that was put out, I think, yesterday, right? Updated yesterday. UK monthly property transaction commentary from HM Revenue and Customs on the Gov website. Okay. The provisional non-seasonally adjusted, so actual, right? So before they fudge it, the provisional estimate of the number of UK residential transactions in September is 19% lower than September last year, right? Nobody disputes this. And in fact, it's also 2% lower than the previous month. So it's even lower than August, which is also a very low month. We are at very, very low numbers of transactions. There is no question. So I just want to show you evidence that the actual transaction volumes are down, in case you are in any doubt about that, right? So I'm then going to ask you this so that you can now use a bit of your common sense. Why do you think transaction volumes are down? Do you think it's because just people are just buying fewer houses? Nothing's changed in the economy. Nothing's changed with house prices. Nothing's changed with mortgages. Nothing's changed with interest rates. Nothing's changed with affordability. Just people are buying less houses. Do you think that's the reason? Or do you think that people are buying fewer homes, 20% fewer homes than this time last year, which is already very low, by the way, last year compared to the previous average? Or do you think it's because there's an affordability problem? I would suggest that it is an affordability problem leading to the transaction numbers dropping. Okay, if you are with me so far, and if you accept this theory, this hypothesis that transaction volumes are down because affordability has got worse, my next question would be to you, what does your common sense say about, well, who are the most severely affected group of buyers by affordability? Is it people at the lowest end of the price range or the highest end of the price range? I would suggest that it's the people at the lowest, the people who struggle, first-time buyers, the ones who are buying their first property. They're the ones most severely hit by the affordability changes that have happened because of interest rates and mortgage lending and the cost of living crisis and inflation. So this is all to say that it is my view that there are and I know this because I talk to the agents, I talk to the mortgage brokers, far fewer first-time buyer transactions happening now. And there are more transactions happening at a higher value as people are downsizing, and especially at the mid-ranges. If you have fewer transactions at the lowest end and more transactions at the higher end, that will cause the average transaction value, not house prices, but the average transaction value, which is what's reported in these indices, to increase, to slide up the scale. So what I'm saying is the reason the Land Registry's most recent house price index release said that house prices were up 0.2% year on year, and the reason that Halifax and all of them are showing, some of them not the falls that we are expecting, is because of that phenomenon I've just described. Let me now finish this video by showing you the data that Alex found. This is preliminary and only a very early indication of data that Alex found from the Land Registry's own statistics. And this is not conclusive, but this is like for like comparison. Look at that image, right? What do you see? The bottom line. So this is comparing the average prices from September 22 from Land Registry transaction data with the average in September 2023. And it's showing an average reduction. And yes, the number of properties showing in the September 23 is a very, very small sample, but still the average is down 12% on average. And for flats, it's down 19%. Now, as they get more data, that will probably reduce slightly, but just ask yourself this. If this is not a complex algorithm and weighted seasonally adjusted calculation, what you're looking at here is the raw number, the raw average from September, Land Registry September figures last year to the raw average of Land Registry September figures this year, and it's down nearly 20% on flats. Can you not see what's happening? Yes, it's maths, and yes, it's frustrating, but I am so worried that innocent, unbiased, impartially minded buyers out there who are in a position to buy, who are wondering how safe it is to buy, are looking at the Nationwide, they're looking at the Land Registry's official house price index and going, oh, well, house prices haven't come down nearly as far as everyone said, according to the indices. If you don't understand how the indices are calculated, you won't understand why that is perhaps a mistaken assumption. And I'm asking you to consider that this government data I'm showing on my screen right now, which is from raw Land Registry data, might indicate that house prices themselves, as opposed to the average transaction value, are indeed falling very steeply. Any quick questions? Because guys, my frustration that you can hear in my voice is coming from the other housing commentators who are trumpeting that house prices went up. They can say, and I wouldn't argue with them if they said, that the average transaction value increased in October. And I go, yeah, well, the average transaction value may have increased. That is not the same as saying house prices increased. And either they are being disingenuous, dishonest, deliberately misleading bleeps. And I am angry about this because it's not fair on the people who are misled about this. Or they don't understand the maths and they're just thick. But it's got to stop this lazy misrepresentation of the data and how it's presented to the public. And I implore journalists especially to listen to this, and for journalists to say in any of their reporting about Nationwide's house price index, that the average transaction value could increase whilst house prices are going down. And if there are any journalists who have questions about that, please get in touch with me, and I will, if I can raise Mr. Groundwater, will happily go through and explain why average transaction values can be going up whilst house prices themselves are in fact going down. So there's my public service announcement of the day. It's made me late. I've got to get in the car. I'm due in London today. To actually have a discussion with the BBC on this very topic. So I'm going to be trying to bring this story to the masses. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all. I haven't got time. I've got to leave it here. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.